in my apartment, like looking out the window. And I said to her, I said, well, if I want to get into coaching, like this could be my stepping stone. You know, like I played Division III. It's a Division I program. Like, I think I need to give it a shot. And I was 22 years old. And she's like, well, okay. So I pack up, I move home. And I lasted about 2 weeks. And I was like, wow, like I haven't lived at home in 4 years. Like, this is tough.
Right.
So I was actually like looking for, this is going to be really long-winded, but it's a good story. So I was looking for apartments in like the local newspaper, and I come across this ad, and it said wanted, looking for a woman or couple to live in with elderly woman. You get room and board plus a monthly stipend. So I call the number, and it's this gentleman who his mother lives in Olean, and she's like 96 years old and needs somebody just to help care for her. So I go down, I meet her. Her name is Ethel, which is probably fitting, right, for a 96-year-old woman.
Absolutely.
So I leave, and he calls me. He's like, my mom loves you. Do you want to move in? I was like, sure. So I move in. Like I said, I got room and board. And then I think he gave me like $200 a month, maybe. I can't even remember. But so I move in, and like now basketball's starting up. And as we know, coaching doesn't just work 9 to 5. You know, it's all day, every day. And Ethel would wake me up every morning with an air horn because she wanted the breakfast on the table at 8 a.m. And so as the season kind of went along, I was like, this is really hard. Like I can't put dinner on the table at 5 o'clock. So I actually I move out and I go back home because I'm like, it's just not working. So he calls me, he goes, Jacey, my mom really misses your companionship. What do you think about you coming back? But like, I'll get her like Meals on Wheels, so you don't have to like put the meals on the table. I said, okay. So I moved back in. Well, basketball starts, and you know how like back in the day, Division I, they used to like the Midnight Madness, right at midnight, start practice. So we start that, and it's about, I get home, I get settled, and like 3:30 in the morning, and I hear the air horn. So I go down, and she ended up having some health issues. But I was like, shoot, I'm gonna have to move back out. But she ended up going to a nursing home. But the son still let me stay at the house for free, and it worked out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then the next year, a donor stepped up, and they offered me $10,000, and I thought I was rich. And then by that third year, I had, an assistant coach title. So it was all worth it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So give me a timeline just as far as like schools that you have coached at. Like where'd you start, and then where are you now?
Yeah. So there I was at Bonaventure. So those were my 3 seasons, 2 as director of operations, and then 1 as an assistant. Cool. From there, I went on to Canisius College, which is Canisius University now, in Buffalo for 3 years. Then I was out at Bowling Green in Ohio for 5, and then at Portland for 5 years / 4 seasons.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you've been coaching for a while.
17 years. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's so crazy. So when we talk about that, okay, let's talk about the tough aspects of coaching. The cons, right? So what is it like now? You were a former athlete, so you understand a lot more than maybe some coaches do that weren't, right?
Right.
You played the sport that you're coaching, which is another plus. But what's it like getting these 17, 18, 19-year-old children, essentially, right? That want to be grown, that you have to teach them that they are adults now and that they're going to be adults, right? What are some of the cons of that? What are the hard parts? I shouldn't say cons. What are just the hard parts of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hardest part is, like you mentioned, like, like being role model for kids and getting them to understand, what goes into success, essentially, whether that's success on the court, in the classroom, the recruiting aspect of selling your school, this and that. But it's like also like from when I first started coaching 17 years ago, kids have changed, right? 16 to 18-year-olds have changed. People talk about the entitlement, but just like the social media, the pressures that these kids have, because of social media. So it's hard, And also it's like, we were talking the other day as a couple coaches, we were getting together, and it's like, times have changed. Like we don't have gym rats anymore, right? Back in the day, I would walk into the gym at 11 o'clock at night. You got kids in there shooting free throws, listening to music, whatever. Like, that doesn't happen anymore because kids have so many distractions. You know what I mean? And when I went to college, like, I didn't have a cell phone. Like, I literally did not have it. I had a room phone in my dorm, which girls look at me like, really, coach, you're old. And I'm like, actually, I'm not that old, but like,
Right.
that's how quickly things have changed. Like, I didn't have that. Like, I didn't go to the gym just so I could put it on my social media. You know what I mean? And I
Absolutely.
think that happens right now. So it is more difficult, but at the same time, like, I tell my coaching colleagues, like, we're not changing that. Like, that's reality. So like, we have to adjust a little bit, as coaches, you know what I mean? And still be able to relate to them, still be able to hit home with them. Those important factors where, yeah, they've changed, but we have to change too.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think even for me, I haven't been coaching that long. It's only been like 6 years. But like times have changed in the 6 years that I've been coaching. And like you said, I think if we can't adapt, right? If we
Yeah,
don't want to, if we choose not to, we'll never connect with the kids. And if
correct.
there's no connection, it's going to be so much harder to get the
Right.
most out of them that we can on the court. Um, but also as adults too.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's like, I always say, like, I don't, it's not a job to me. It's a lifestyle. Like, it's all day, every day. I mean, I got
Hmm.
recruits texting me now. I have, players texting me, like, there's no off time. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
even at night, I'm thinking about the next game or the next practice and what I can do. Like, it's not a job. It's a lifestyle. But at the time, it's very rewarding, but it's all day, every day. But
yeah,
I have grown to
yeah.
love that fact of it. So.
So to kind of move into that, like you said, you're kind of already talking about some of the pros of it. Um, what is I really like this question that I had. I was thinking about asking you it, but what's your like dream player to coach, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't been coaching long. I only coach like the high school JV level and stuff, but I still have my like dream players, right? Like this like weird standard in my mind of like what I would love. So like to you, what's like your dream player?
I mean, first and foremost, like, I think to play for me, you have to play hard, right? Like, I
Yeah,
don't care how good you are if you like play half-ass. Like, I'll
right.
I'll go in a gym and I'll watch her and be like, yeah, she's good, but like, I can't coach her because she doesn't play hard.
Hmm.
So that is like my first and foremost. And then the second thing, and I think it's every coach, is like the coachability factor. And it's hard because, like, being coachable, right, is like, okay, I'm doing what the coaches ask of me, right? I maybe have to change my stance, maybe have to do this, maybe have to do that. But like, sometimes kids don't, like, not be coachable, like, maliciously. Like, you know what I mean? They're like, okay, I'm just not going to do it. It's just they don't know how to change. They don't know how to be
Mm,
coachable, right? So I think
right.
it's something like that. But a lot of the time, which is hard, is you don't know that, and especially for me in college, till they're on my college campus. You know what I
Seriously.
mean? Like, how do I know if a kid is coachable? Because, yeah, their high school coach can say, oh, she's coachable, their AAU coach. But are they really? Because I've never been able to coach them.
Right, right.
So that's like been an important factor to me. But the ideal is just somebody who works hard. Give me the kid who's going to run through a wall, who has a little bit of that dog in them. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It is, instead of being like a really good, skilled player who's like the nice guy, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. I like
and I
that.
like the chip on the shoulder. Like, give me that kid
Yeah,
who maybe wasn't, maybe overlooked in the recruiting process or something, whatever. Give me that
yeah,
little chip. I appreciate that, and that goes a long way with me.
yeah. I like that. I mean, you already answered it, which was really cool. I was gonna ask like recruiting wise, right? When you recruit, what's your criteria? But it sounds
Yeah,
like it's that, right? That your criteria should be
yeah,
the dream player that you want.
yeah. I mean, and the thing I also feed on that is, like, any pro, like at Portland, one of our literal, like, our biggest kind of standard, kind of, because I say it's a rule, but it didn't really have rules, but was like, you have to be a great teammate. So even when I go to
Mm,
high school games now and AAU games, like, I almost want a kid to, like, not play well to see how they react. You know
mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, do they start chirping at their teammates? Do they chirp at their coach? Do they chirp at the ref? Right? Like, yeah, it's easy to go and drop 25 in front of a coach, but like, when shit isn't going your way, how do you respond? you know?
Absolutely.
And it's that kid that whatever argues with their coach where it's like just off my list, like no thank
Yeah.
you, you
Yeah.
know. So that's like my second thing, and it's like you have to be a great teammate, and being a great teammate at the college level is hard, right? Because everybody, like you played college, everybody at that level is good.
Right.
They were probably the best players on their high school team. So
Right.
how do you sacrifice your success for your teammate's success? Do you get more excited for your teammate's success than you do your own, right? And when
Mm,
you're able to do that, like you're a great teammate, right?
absolutely.
And I pride myself, like at Portland, my last year when we won the SUNY championship, we had a bunch of selfless individuals who they were all great teammates, right?
Right.
They did whatever they needed to do in order to be successful, and it's hard to do though. Like that's not easy, and people
Right.
can talk it, but can you walk it? You know?
Right. Right. Absolutely. And honestly, it's funny you say that. I love what you said at the end. Can you walk it? Because I think personally to me, being coachable is also like getting the job done.
Right.
Right. I'm glad that you noticed that your feet were over there and they should have been this way, but could you make the shot now?
Right.
Part of that is being coachable. It's like, right? Like finish the mission, like do the task as well.
Absolutely.
Um, could you so this is so funny. I just did a podcast last night with one of my good friends. She played Division 1 lacrosse. She went JUCO first and
Okay.
then transferred and played D1 lacrosse. But I'm so glad I'm talking to you tonight because it kind of makes me kind of like piggyback off it with her. But could you just explain to the people out there, right, the kids that want to go D1, okay, from a coaching aspect, what you look for in a Division 1 recruit? Even we can just talk basketball. That's perfectly fine
Yeah.
because there's a lot of kids that I know that say they want to or that think they can, and
Right.
that's fine. But I just feel like there's more to that.
Yeah. I mean, just from like, I guess first and foremost is like the skill aspect, right? Can you
Right.
make shots? Can you put the ball in the basket? Can you handle the basketball? Can you play defense?
Right.
Can you rebound? Like, do you have a nose for the ball, right? And I think that then the next factor is like what I just said about like what I like hardworking, right? Like
Hmm.
when I call you, are you in the gym? Or are you chilling with your friends? Are you like, oh coach, can I call you back after this workout? Because like it takes so much, and like
Right.
I said, the strength portion of it, the conditioning portion. But like to play basketball at the Division 1 level, it is hard. Every team has 15 players,
Hmm.
right? And it's just not a lot, and some of them, and now people want to carry 12, so from a skill, like you have to do something exceptionally well, like let's face it, you're not going to be a Division 1 player if you're just a great defender,
Right.
right?
Right.
Do you have a high IQ? Are you able to distribute the basketball, right? Can you make shots, right? Can you make shots? Can you score under the basket if you're a post player? Can you score consistently? You know
Right.
what I mean? If you have those skill sets and you're able to do it, not just against your high school, right? And against, I'm not nothing against Class D and Class C because that's where I'm from, right? But like, are you able to do that against higher level opponents, right? Because
Absolutely.
I joke, I mean, I had a great high school career, scored over 1,000 points, went on to Division 3, had a great career, but
Hmm.
like out of high school, like people didn't say, oh, she's a 1,000 point scorer, she should play Division 1 basketball. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like there's levels. But I will
Hmm.
say on that is I do think a lot of times people think there's scholarship basketball, there's Division 1, Division 2, and then everybody else can play Division 3, and that's not the case either, right?
Agreed.
Like not everybody can play Division 3. Like it's hard. You have to be a good player to play at Division 3 level.
Absolutely.
Not anybody that just played high school can go play college basketball, but
Right.
um,
Agreed.
I think you just there has to be something that you can showcase. Like I said, not against just random people, but being able to do that against high level opponents.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that's literally what I feel like they need to hear. I have a
Oh,
bunch of kids and
oh
I
my
know
god!
a bunch of kids that want to and they say they want to, right? And I'll never knock someone's dreams down
Right?
or over, but I will be very realistic with you, right? And what more realistic is it than a coach that's there now doing it and you're looking for these types of people,
Yeah.
right? Do you have these qualities? And then are you really good?
Right. And it's hard
Right?
because parents, like, God bless parents. Like, I mean, I love mine, but even my parents, like, every parent wears little rose colored glasses,
Right.
where your kid is the best, which they should be. That's your child. But at the end of the day, like, there has to be some reality in there.
Absolutely. It has to set in eventually. And it's funny that you even say that. I feel like that's like that kills a lot of these kids realities as well. Right? When
Yeah.
you have a parent on either side of the spectrum, one that either doesn't really care or one that's a little overzealous and is living through their child,
Right.
it can blur that line of reality, I think,
Yeah. For
at
sure.
times. Um so this one I'm excited about this little topic. So how do you feel about um the trajectory right now of women in sports? And by that I mean like I feel like it's on the rise in certain ways,
Yeah.
right? But I still don't think y'all get the love you should. I feel like it's kind of like an ever growing thing. But yeah, but like what do you just think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been for me like phenomenal to see and I put it in perspective of like when I first started going, when I started coaching 17 years ago, I would have the opportunity to go to the women's final four because they have our coaching conventions and everything, where you could like buy a ticket last minute for $8, right?
Okay.
Now, last year I was, at the Final Four. I was on the NCAA National Committee. I'm in Dallas, and the cheapest ticket is 800. You know what I mean?
Oh wow.
So to fully see that like come full circle is amazing. And then I actually just saw something last week. I posted on my social media of just like the viewers from last weekend's games
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
comparing
Yeah.
the men and women, and I feel like me being a women's, basketball fan and a player, it's like it's always been there, but for some reason now it's clicking because I was always saying like if you truly love the game of basketball and like want to see execution and this and that,
Right.
like it's the women's game, right? Because
Yeah.
the
Yep.
men's game is played above the rim, it's
Yeah.
just more athletic, whatever it may be. So to kind of see that come full circle, and even like it's not just basketball, like from the women's softball, the World Series, you know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
That championship, like even the lacrosse stuff, the women's soccer, like it's phenomenal. But it's just like I guess it needed to come at some point, and I guess I'm just
Hmm.
happy to be able like to see it evolve.
Yeah.
And I just think it's going to continue. I think we're just kind of on our climb, and hopefully it just continues to increase. It doesn't matter the gender, like sports are
Yeah. Yeah,
sports.
yeah. For sure. I think you're right. And I saw I forgot what podcast it was, but there was some NBA players talking about how exciting women's like
Yeah.
college basketball is right now. And I'm like, yo, it's super exciting. But like you said, it's been this way.
Right.
I think kind of the like a lot of things that you alluded to earlier, technology, social media. I
Hmm.
think a lot of these things are falling into place to why it's growing more and like why there's more eyes that are on it.
Yeah.
Um, but I love it, like you said, seeing the ratings go up and like hearing
Yeah.
about ticket costs. But even for me, like I love hearing I love, obviously like I train a lot of girls and hearing them like, oh, we're gonna go to this game or we're gonna go to that game now. And like that's cool to me too, like
Right.
that they're wanting to like go see it in person too, right?
Absolutely.
Um, like you said, when you touch on the guys game, everybody knows when you go and see it in person, it's like, oh, they're big, they're fast, they jump
Right.
high, so I
Right.
get it. Like there's this entertainment value, right?
Yeah.
When the women's game, they don't talk about that as much. So to see people like excited to be there, like
Right.
to be in the moment, not just like, oh, I'm just gonna watch it on YouTube. I'm gonna watch it on TV. Like, no, I want to be there. I want to
Yeah.
be front row, or I'll buy tickets in nosebleeds to watch. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And
Um, that's
I still say like it has a little like we're still growing in the fact of like when you look at the professional sports comparing like the men and the women, like whether it's professional soccer, professional basketball, like we're just not there, the women, like from a pay standpoint, like
right.
WNBA players have to go overseas to make all their money,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
NBA guys don't have to do that. So hopefully this trend continues to grow, and at someday there is some, equality with it. But we'll see. I think it's still growing, and it's definitely growing in the right direction.
absolutely. Okay, so this is probably my favorite part of like the show. Okay, the pain and loss part. I ask everybody this question, and
Okay.
and I love it because I think um, I think this is kind of what molds us. You didn't say the word, but you talked about adversity a little bit earlier, right?
Yeah.
And seeing um, how some of these kids act, right? Like, I just want to see them. Maybe you don't play well, but how are you going to be, right, in life? And I think sports do a great job of correlating to life because a lot of times, like, we don't think we're going to have a bad game, or we
Right.
don't think we're going to go through like a 6 game losing streak, right? But like, how you get through that and who you are after that and everything. So, just kind of talk about like a tough time in your life
Yeah.
that was pivotal, right? Where some pain or some loss was part of
Yeah,
it.
no, absolutely. And my mind goes one direction. And I guess actually, ever since I went through this and I had this period in my life, I've always kind of had the mentality of never too high, never too low. Right? Like you're gonna have your highs, you're gonna have your lows, but it's like where you are. Like you can't get too high about anything, and you can never get too low. So actually, how I ended up getting to Cortland. So it is March 2018. And I just finished my 5th season at Bowling Green, and we didn't have, I went from my first year at BG, we were conference championships. We were 25th in the country. We were beating Michigan. We were beating Ohio State. Like we were beating, Power 5 programs. And so by 2018, our program had really dipped. And we go lose in the quarterfinals, I believe, of the conference tournament. We get back, and I learned that my boss had gotten bought out of her contract.
Oh
Right.
wow.
So we all know what that happens as a head coach. You don't have a job, right? So it's kind of crazy. So that happens on a Wednesday. So what do you do? Like when you're struggling, I'm like, I'm going home. I'm spending the weekend with my family, right? Like that just, helps me, that comfort, right? That security that you have in your family. So I go home and I'm there. I get to celebrate my little brother's birthday and this and that. And then I'd gone to come up to Buffalo to stay with a friend. And that night, I literally get a call at 1 a.m. and my grandmother suddenly passed away. Right.
Oh wow.
So I'm like, holy shit. So, trying to navigate through that, and it was my first grandmother that I had lost. And then on the flip side of it, I had dealing with some health things, and I needed to have my thyroid removed. I had something called Graves' disease. And so literally I joke now, and I was like, in a week, I literally lose my job, my grandmother, and my thyroid,
That's
right?
crazy.
And at the
Yeah.
end of the end, I'm like, I don't have a job, right? This is the first
Wow.
time it's 2018, so I'm 34 years old, 35, I don't know. And I had worked since I was 13, like
Yeah.
whether that was pumping gas, whether that was flipping pizzas at the pizzeria, like I had worked, right? So I'm like, I don't have a job. And so like you go through and like I go to the Final Four and I try to use my colleagues and the people in the business, and at the same, like coaching is crazy. The coaching carousel is nuts. And so it gets to be the beginning of May and I still don't have a job, right? So I was like, you know what am I doing? Like I'm out here by myself in by myself in Bowling Green, Ohio. Like don't really have any, I have my coaching friends, but that's it. So I'm like, I'm gonna move home. And there was a stretch in May, like I would wake up, at my parents' house, which I look now, it was probably the best time because it's like I wasn't home enough to like sit down and have dinner with my parents, and go for a walk with my mom and go see my grandma and like just
Right.
I didn't have time to do that because I lived 5.5 hours away. So, hindsight's, it 2020, but I was like, that was probably a great time. But it was for 3 weeks where I would wake up at my parents and I would sit on the couch talking to my mom, just applying for jobs, just applying, whether that was pharmaceutical, whether it was a substitute teacher, right? And I'm like, holy cow. And so then I'm thinking, I'm like, is this my time to get out of the business? Right? Like, hey, this is what kind of came up, And then kind of as things evolved, and I joke, I'm like, I went for 3 months without having a job. And then I had 3 offers within a week. And,
Wow.
one of them was a Division I associate head coach. The other one was a Division I assistant. And then it was the head job at Cortland. And I was like, I'm taking the head job at Cortland. And it wasn't the highest paying one, but I was like, you know what? Like, I want to control my own destiny.
Mhm.
right? Like as an assistant, when you're under a head coach, you can only control so much, you
Yeah.
know? And that's what, like, looking back though at my experience at Bowling Green helped shape me into the coach I am today because of that experience, right? I knew how to handle things. I knew what to do in certain situations. So like I was thankful for that, even though it was the hardest probably time of my life, right? To
Yeah.
be able to fight through that and like be able to take all the things that I learned from all of the three coaches that I worked under to be my own head coach and really
Mhm.
develop a program how I truly envisioned it, and to have that success. So it was like, it was a very difficult time in my life. But you know, like I said, it was a blessing because I obviously went on and loved my time in Cortland and had a lot of success, and
Yeah.
it was just an amazing place and an amazing time for me to be there.
So when you look back at those like three kind of major key um things that happened in your life at that time that were traumatic, right, and tragic. Um, what was it though that would you say if you could pinpoint, not it doesn't have to just be something or somebody, but what was it that helped get you through that though? That's a
Oh my,
lot of different stuff, right, that you're going
yeah,
through.
yeah. My family. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
My family, you know, it just, like I said, they support you. I mean, like I think about my parents, like they don't miss a game, you know, like they come and support me. They would drive literally 3 hours, 3.5 hours to drive to Cortland to watch an hour and a half game and drive home. Right. So they
Right.
supported me in
Right.
my highs. They sure enough supported me in my lows. And like being home and you know, having those conversations, having those hard conversations, right, with my parents about my career and what it entailed thus far, like how did I get to the position I am and like what's next. Like
Hmm.
if I didn't have that like in that situation to even go to, I'm not sure what would have happened, you know, but it was definitely my
Yeah.
family that got me through that.
That's so awesome. This is like the perfect transition in closing. So what is some advice that you would give to someone that's going through a hard time, right? So
Yeah.
you just listed three that you're going through at a certain point in time all at
Right.
once, right?
Right.
But just what's some just like kind of general advice or just some things that you take away from it where you're like it's like your law now when you're going
Yeah,
through stuff.
I think it's just like I mentioned at the start of that story, is never too high, never too low, right? Like in whether they're, you know, I think about recruits, like you're getting the calls, you're talking, like you feel on top of the world. Now all of a sudden somebody pulls a scholarship, right? Like
Right.
you can never get that low, right? You always have to be in the middle. And that's through the good, the bad, you know, whatever life throws at you, you know, you have to have some type of kind of consistency and be able to maintain that, because if you get too high and get too low, right, the ebbs and flows, it's hard to deal with. You know, the second thing would be like have your person, right, whether that's a family member, a friend, a therapist, have your person, you know, because life is hard. Life
For
is
real.
hard. You know, I tell my kids this all the time, my players, like life is so hard, but at the same time, like choose your hard, right? Choose your hard,
Absolutely.
right? And I think about it too, like my everybody has a COVID story, right? I am so thankful for COVID because it was the first time in my life where I could actually focus on myself. You know, where I was like out of shape, I didn't eat well because I didn't have time, I didn't do this, and then like COVID just slowed down everything, and now like I'm in probably the best shape of my life. You know, I feel great. I wake up every day, go to the gym, like it's a new lifestyle. You know, so it's just like sometimes you need those little things to happen in order for you to like be the best that you could be, you know. But like you choose your hard, right? Like
Yeah,
I
for
said,
sure.
working out is hard, but being out of shape is hard,
It's work.
right?
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
like so that's
For
my kind
sure.
of like my closing is choose your hard, right? Never too high, never too low.
I love that. I just thought of one thing
Yeah.
before we leave. Um, I don't know how much you pay attention to Cortland basketball and stuff now still.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so I gotta know, how do you feel about Brooks here this year? How do
I
you
think
feel
it's
she played?
awesome. It's
Amazing, right? So
awesome.
you
So
recruited
well.
her, which is so cool to like. It's gotta be see that's gotta be cool to see, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like you're
100%. And
recruiting
like,
her and like that.
yeah, when I recruited her, and I remember I was getting like tagged in articles, like people thought Brooke should go to UConn. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
when I was recruiting Brooke, I'm like, you know, she's a good player. Like she was getting some D2, some scholarship stuff, but I was like, you could go to Portland and have, you know, a historic career. You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean? And because I knew the type of player she was, I knew the work ethics that she had. The
Mhm,
kid loved to be in the gym,
mhm.
so it was great. And seeing her freshman year, obviously, our team was very veteran last year with
Yep.
8 seniors. So like any freshman comes in, you don't get the minutes that you want, and you're learning the new system both offensively and defensively. But Brooke was always very coachable, always bought in, which I loved. So to see her get that recognition and accolades,
Yeah.
like so happy for her, but I'm not surprised because she's
Right.
such a hard worker.
Right. And that's so cool. It's funny because I'm gonna have her on here. I think Friday, Thursday or
Oh,
Friday.
awesome.
Her and I were talking about it like last week, but yeah, literally just kind of clicked in my head a little bit about how it's kind of cool how things kind of come full circle, right? How
Yeah.
you go from, like you said, you go from kind of similar, right? Brooks, small school,
Yeah.
like really, really, really small school, right? But but you both had something in you that was like, I not only can I play at the next level, I'm going to, right?
Right.
And then um hopefully her career continues to be what it is, right? And you guys can
Absolutely.
have that in common as well,
For sure.
which is awesome. So I just want to say thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming
No,
up here. It
thank
was awesome
you.
to kind of like hear your story. And I always tell people it's cool for me because obviously I know people that are on here, right? But I
Right.
learn more about you guys each time, and it's really,
Right.
really cool for me to witness and listen to that and be like, wow, that's crazy. I didn't know that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So so
No,
cool.
I
So
think it's
thank you
very
so
cool.
so so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks
you.
for having me on. I appreciate. Love to share my story. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Impacting those kids in the community. I think you're doing a great job. And yeah, love to see it.
Appreciate you.
So okay, well, take
Great
care of
job.
yourself.
All right, take care.
Okay, thanks. You too.
Bye.
Bye.